Oh man, it's been way too long. Way too long. It's only been 2 days, but wow. I needed a sabbatical after that loss on Sunday. I'm going to break down my biggest concerns after the loss going into this game at Green Bay, at Lambeau. Oh, geez. We'll talk about that a lot more. But first off, I just want to say, I'm going to go into my concerns, but a lot of it in that first half, it just looked like the Panthers were hungover. In the first half against the Bills, they looked hungover. I was visiting some friends. I'm normally in bed at 9 p.m. lights out. But the Tones friends from college, they have different philosophies. And I look at them and I go, you look less hungover right now on Sunday morning than the Panthers do on the field. And that's how they were playing. They were playing in slow motion. I think there were a lot of mistakes in the second half. In the first half, the Panthers just came out slow. Some of it's probably Buffalo was just on bye. They had 2 weeks. Canales made sure to tell you about that on Monday. It's like, oh, no. Sean McDermott had 2 weeks. He had 2 freaking weeks. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as you think. And I honestly think they were there. Like, the only time I've played sports hungover in my life, I played a basketball game. And I remember seeing a rebound and having to tell myself to jump for it. Like, it wasn't an instinct. It was just do I jump for this ball? Next thing you know, some dude comes in, he's 6'8", just smacks the ball. Gets it right out of the air. I'm like, ah. And that's how the Panthers look like. Trevin Wallace on that 64-yard run by James Cook. On the broadcast, Olsen goes, oh, it's just a great block by the guard. I have seen Trevin Wallace over the last few weeks shed that block and tackle James Cook. Or shed that block and tackle the runner, whoever it may be. And James Cook is getting all the attention. I know after the game, he's like, I could have ran for 200 more yards if I wanted to. It was that easy out there. He just doing a victory lap. But I've seen Trevin Wallace tackle James Cook on that play before. And they face good running backs. They neutralized Devon Achane. They neutralized Javonte Williams. Breece Hall, another good back, you neutralized them. And I know the Dolphins and Jets have terrible O-lines. And the Cowboys were pretty banged up when you played them. But don't give James Cook all the credit. I think they missed plays that they have made in the past weeks. And there's a reason Buffalo is sitting here after this win going, we expected to see a little bit more from the quarterback. And the quarterback didn't beat you. You beat yourselves largely. Where did the fundamentals go? Nick Scott. And how many yards has Nick Scott given up on missed tackles this year? So he had the big one against ETN week 1, which reminded me, that 70-yard plus run by ETN reminded me a lot of the run that James Cook had on that big breakaway touchdown, where the James Cook run, Derek Brown's not on the field. Week 1, the Jags just triple team him and take him out of the play. And it's the same. I don't know if he cuts back on James Cook's cuts back, but it's one of those plays where it's maybe the direction they show you they're going, they change it up a little bit. And you have Morig, who misses a tackle again. Nick Scott on this one with Khalil Shakir, the 54-yard touchdown. He misses a tackle. And it looked a lot like the football that you saw earlier in the season with the explosives. I think you fixed that. Now I'm going to talk about why I'm concerned. There's injuries and there's a lot of turning tides in Carolina, what we need to discuss. But I don't really agree with this. This is what Joe Person writes. I believe this was on Monday. He goes, the Panthers failed in spectacular fashion with Fs for Andy Dalton, the run defense, the heaviest drags on the overall grade. We'll talk about Dalton. Oh, I know some of you want me to talk about Dalton. That's probably why you clicked on the video. People commenting during the game, hey, Tone, you better walk back everything you said about Dalton. And I didn't say anything that crazy. I said it was like putting it all on red rifle. You either win big, win the jackpot, you get 3 touchdowns like Dalton threw last year against Vegas, or you get 3 terrible turnovers, you get some of the worst quarterback play we've seen since week 1 and week 2 of 2024, and you throw it all on red rifle, yeah, you walk away with a mortgage, but somehow you also lost your home. And the Panthers lost their home on Sunday against the Bills. Person goes on to write, filling in for an injured Bryce Young, Dalton coughed up 3 turnovers and looked overmatched in a 40-9 loss that reminded the Panthers, so this is the key word that I want you to pay attention to. It reminded the Panthers of the sizable gap that remains between them and the NFL's top teams. Was Sunday about talent to you? And I know you're playing the Packers, who have Micah Parsons and a ton of weapons on that offense. Good O-line. They're 5-1-1. Another very talented team. I don't think you lost the Bills because of talent. Like, if Josh Allen threw it all over the yard, he threw 5 touchdowns, and, it was that type of win for them, I would say that's more dominating than what happened to the Panthers. Like, the Panthers lost because they couldn't tackle. They've been able to tackle in past weeks. They looked slow and tired. They didn't capitalize on any opportunities. The quarterback looked awful. The score would have been 12-10 at half. I did this calculation. If you were able to capitalize on 2 plays. One, Dalton doesn't check into that screen that Epinesa takes back to the 1-yard line, and then Allen does the tush push and they score a touchdown. So if that doesn't happen, we'll talk a lot more about Dalton's viability as quarterback moving forward, if that has to be the case, because I'm not super optimistic about Bryce Young, to be honest, and his chances to play against Green Bay. But you eliminate that boneheaded play, one of many by Dalton, and then you eliminate, or rather you capitalize, so there's a throw back shoulder to T-Mac. Dalton misses that throw. This is the final drive of the first half. Ball is like a foot or 2 wide, misses the throw. This one's even more egregious. The next play, they come back at 2nd and goal. I have it right in front of me. There's 22 seconds left. Dalton goes pass short right to JT Sanders. Sanders gets 5 yards. He has a convoy of blockers. It's 3v2. I think he has 3 blockers, and it's 2 Bills defenders. And they somehow don't convert. I thought it was a surefire touchdown. But Sanders just takes a really weird angle. Like, he runs at the Bills defender as if he's going to truck him. And that was a terrible decision because, one, now you have to burn your timeout. And you could have probably got the same yards even if he walked to the sideline. And the other thing is even if you wanted to, really challenge them there was a hole between the 2 blockers, and there was opportunity to score. Instead, he's running into the belly of the Bills' tackler. I believe it was Jordan Poyer on the play. So if you convert on those 2 or 3 opportunities, it's technically 2, the score is 12-10 at half. You're in that game. And then Canales, who's getting criticized for going away from the run, which I don't know how much I feel. They would have obviously been better running the ball the whole time than giving it to Dalton. But at least the game is manageable. It's 12-10. And the story in the first half is not the Bills and James Cook dominating you. It's the Bills got 1 big play. The Bills look lethargic after the bye. Josh Allen's not playing his best. And you're right in this game with one of the league's best teams. I don't think the issue was talent on Sunday. They looked flat in the first half, and then it all fell apart in the second half. And they have some injuries going on too. But first, I want to talk about this. Here is something I'm really concerned about on the defensive line. Here's Dave Canales.
And didn't feel like we could collapse the backside of some of these runs. There were some cutbacks that got out on us. And the toss cracks, really were effective for them today. So stuff that we got to look at. And, this is a copycat league, and teams are going to see that and try to attack us with those things. So we got to go back to the drawing board and make sure we're fitting all those up correctly.
So this is why I'm concerned with this team. Because that whole run the ball, stop the run mantra, do right more, all Canales' code words that he uses in these press conferences, that goes out to the door if teams know how to attack you. And on Sunday, the Bills knew how to attack you. The big play, 64-yard run by Cook. Derek Brown's not in the game. But it was similar to that ETN run, where he kind of cuts it back, and they know that the edge isn't doing the right thing. And the Bills know, well, step one is don't run towards Derrick Brown, run away from him. Use the toss, use the stretches, even use the cutback a little bit. And what you do is you attack these edge rushers and you confuse them. Because that's what it is. It's like, one, you don't go interior. You know, DB is one of the best players in football. Don't go near him. Well, that's obvious. That's just like, step 1A. But step 2 of that is you get to the outside and you do cutbacks and such. And you confuse Princely Umanmielen, who had a pretty bad day. The one that jumped off the book to me was DJ Wanham. He had a pretty poor game. Nick Scorton had the sack, but he didn't have a great game. And the Bills knew what to do. Now, this is a developmental team. So we can complain about the talent and all that. As Joe Person writes, the issue is talent. The talent gap between the Bills and the Panthers. Or we can say, which I think this is how I'm looking at it, how I'm taking it. You have an opportunity against the Packers, another really good team. An inconsistent group of young football players, what do? They're inconsistent. They flounder. 1 week, Princely Umanmielen looks great. He's doing all the right things. The next week, he has a pretty bad game. He's slamming his helmet after the game. They have signed up for this. This is what they signed up for when they didn't bring in veteran bridge talent. Some of it's injury related. Like, you're better off with Pat Jones being available. And you just signed, Travis Gibson from San Francisco, who I think is coming off a pretty impressive game a couple weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. And you get him to replace Boogie Basham, who shouldn't be on the roster in the first place. But if you did more, and you have these instances of the young players struggling like they did, then you have something to lean on. And the Panthers don't really have someone or something to lean on outside of Derrick Brown and J.C. Horn. And when teams know how to attack them, well, hopefully the script is not out on this unit. And hopefully this isn't something that is going to happen again. Hopefully this is more so that the Bills just have a great rushing attack, 5.8 yards per carry. Now that's what they allow. They rush for something near that too. It's their terrible run defense, but they run the ball really well, and maybe they just took advantage of that on Sunday. I'm not as concerned about the bad tackling. I think they figure that out. Now, Nick Scott is a little bit different, missing the tackle on Khalil Shakir that goes for the 54-yard touchdown. Another mistake on that honorable mention, Christian Roseboom. He got absolutely laid out by freaking Elijah Moore on that 54-yard touchdown. So Roseboom's been playing pretty well. I think genius play by the Bills. The few passing shots they took, they weren't underneath, but where they beat you is on those intermediate routes, and they've gotten killed, the Panthers have, on those routes all season. So they knew how to attack them, but I think Roseboom getting pancaked by Elijah Moore and Nick Scott with a laughable missed tackle, or Trevin Wallace not being able to get off blocks, or Morig trying to make a shoelace tackle on James Cook. Those are things that I think they worked themselves out. I think that's more so this team wasn't ready. They looked slow. They looked flat. There was something in the air. And maybe the Panthers threw a giant Halloween party the night before. Maybe Derrick Brown was dressed up like a lumberjack. Jimmy Horn was wearing like a Lightning McQueen costume. He's just like, there's like a car around him. What would Bryce Young be? What would Bryce Young's Halloween costume be? Drop a comment below. What would Bryce Young be dressed as? Remember when they dressed him up as like the Cane's worker? Just frying fries and chicken, giving those delicious buns away. Those things are awesome at Cane's. What would Bryce Young's Halloween costume be? Because it looked like the Panthers had a big Halloween party the night before the Bills game. And I think a lot of that will work itself out. Let's talk about this. This is another concern I have. The offensive line. Here's Dave Canales.
This is a challenge, and Chandler Zavala's window will open up this week, so we'll have a chance to get him on the field to evaluate him. We certainly could use his help right now, especially with Brady going down. Evaluate Taylor Moton to see where he's at this week. Yash stepped in and finished the game for us, so if it's not Timo, we're counting on Yash to step in that role, and then just thought Corbett, did an excellent job stepping in. We'll count on him again. Nick Samak, who we haven't seen get action at center, could be another option in the interior of our offensive line. And then we have a couple of guys on the practice squad that have been around us, have been hearing our words, that we'll be able to look at if we need them to.
So this is where I'll be pessimistic, brutally, because the offensive line falling apart is a real thing. Brady Christensen ruptured his Achilles, Taylor Moton, a few other guys we need injury updates on today, on Wednesday. So we'll wait to hear the news there, but I think the depth has expired itself. It's like when you get Christensen out of there, now you're working with Josh Nyman and some of these practice squad players that you have that just flat out cannot play. I think some of the players that Canales is talking about there, like, who is it, Jatire Carter? These are guys that were getting absolutely destroyed in the preseason. And these are players that could be on your offensive line moving forward if these injuries are significant. And for Christensen, the injury is pretty significant. So this scares me. This scares me because your success this season has been predicated on run the ball, stop the run. And I know some people are like, well, Dalton is so inept in the pocket that they gave him, 7 sacks on Sunday? Some of that just has to do with Dalton being immobile. And Dalton was really bad. Didn't protect the ball, does not move well. Maybe some of those sacks he would have eluded. The first sack of the game, Brady Christensen literally trips over his shoes. And was it Bosa? I don't know who got him. Maybe it was an interior guy. And they sacked Dalton. Taylor Moton had, I think, his worst game as a Panther so far. And I love Taylor Moton. I think he has been one of the most consistent players you've had, really, since he's come into the league. He is elite and very underrated across the league. There's a reason you extend him through his mid-30s. You rely on him. On Sunday, he was not good. He got beat twice really bad, and it was noticeable. It was noticeable, the regression of this offensive line, and it culminated in catastrophe. Like, you had a really bad day, it was raining. It was awful. Like, it was just, it's one of those days where you can't wait to go to sleep if you're the Panthers offensive line. Like, it just end the day. Just end it. Like, on to the next day. On to Thursday. We're moving on. It happened. It's over. We're done. It could not be worse. It's done. That was the kind of day the Panthers offensive line had. And it was overshadowed by the laughable performance by the backup quarterback. And I know that's what a lot of people are blaming. But don't be fooled. This Bills pass rush was legit. It got after the passer. The Bills have given up 5.8 yards per carry going into this game against the run. You only were able to get 4.1. You couldn't run the ball. You couldn't stop the run. You couldn't protect the passer. The offensive line completely fell apart and then literally fell apart physically as guys got hurt. So good teams, they don't allow you to run on them. Like, the Bills had a very good game plan. This wasn't about Josh Allen. This was just about, all right, we know exactly how to attack you. And like Canales said, they used the bye week. They did their homework. There's a reason McDermott or whatever 7-0 after the bye. And they come into BOA and they say, oh, you're going to run on us? No, you're not. We've cleaned that up. We're a good team. Good teams don't give up a lot of yards against the run. We have to play Mahomes in January. We're not giving up a lot of yards on the run. That's what the Bills said. We're not going to get beat like a bad team. Now, on the flip side of that is like, well, maybe the Panthers, who had this leadership meeting. So let's go straight to this. Let's go straight to this. Here's Canales on a leadership meeting between him and his players.
No, it definitely, there was a shift. Early in the season, even from our veteran players in our group, a lot of them were new to this team and new to this group. It's a team that's grown together. It's a team that's found ways to win in different phases. And going into this meeting today, there's a sense of an identity. There's a sense of what we look like at our best. And we understand what we're getting after and what's required of it. So there is a confidence that's growing and a knowing of who we are and what our identity can be at its best.
So I think Canales mentioned on Sunday this leadership meeting, and he got pressed real like crazy for it on Monday because I think a lot of people thought it was referring to David Tepper. That's my Halloween costume this year. I'm going dressed up as David Tepper. I'm going dressed up as angry David Tepper. Like I'm gonna like paint on eyebrows that like go down, and I'm just gonna march around. Just I would be a good David Tepper, marching around. I'm gonna come to your door and ask for candy, dressed up as David Tepper. I got $1 billion now. Give me a Kit Kat. Come on. Kit Kats are good. What? Just because I'm a billionaire doesn't mean I have to eat Nicole Tepper's freaking designer chocolate. Isn't she like a wellness person? She looks fit. I'd imagine she's like into healthy desserts. I digress. David Tepper, he definitely enjoys a Snickers bar. Come on. He enjoys a Snickers bar. He does. Shame the man. He doesn't have to eat your freaking organic spinach crap. Come on. But this leadership meeting that Canales is referring to, I think the message in this meeting, which I don't think Tepper was involved in, is, look, we completely lost our identity on the field on Sunday. And I don't mean they like lost it as in the Bills came in and like dug a grave for the identity of the Panthers. But I think instead it's like, this is a pretty demoralizing loss. We looked flat. The brand of football we play is pretty harsh. Like, it's a lot easier to play football when you're winning by 30 points. In the case of the Bills, right? Like, you just go in, throw it all over the yard, and it's a blowout win half the time. And there's weeks you can almost take off. Really. The run the ball, stop the run mantra, like, we're just going to freaking play smash mouth football. I don't know. I think it takes a toll on guys. I think the Bills clearly took advantage of that on Sunday. And I think Canales, on what he talked about that leadership meeting, is like, look, we're not losing ourselves. This is what we're building. The O-line should be a strength of this team. We'll see how it holds up with the injuries. We still have Derek Brown, and we should be able to still win against bad teams, which is partly why I'm not super concerned about this loss. A good team's going to beat you. Run the ball, stop the run doesn't win in January and February. It can take you pretty far. In today's NFL, is that going to win you a Super Bowl? I think this is instead a placeholder. Like, we might have a decent season this year. Maybe we go 9-8. Maybe even better. Who knows? We'll see what happens Sunday. But right now, it's run the ball, stop the run. We'll see if we can ever develop a downfield passing attack. And from there, we'll figure it out. Okay, finally, we're going to talk about the quarterback. Here is Dave Canales on Dalton, blaming Andy Dalton for the interception that resulted with a walk-in Josh Allen touchdown, 1-yard touchdown.
On that second one, Dave, was that a tunnel screen that they just diagnosed, or what?
Yeah, it was, and the end got a beat on it, and tipped it to himself. So another thing that we just have to look at with our scheme and answers for different pressure type of possibilities.
Andy Dalton checking into the interception. And it was just a metaphor for the day because he was so reckless with the football, especially on that second drive where you're driving. It was probably the best offensive drive they had all day. They're moving the football. I think they were running pretty well. Dalton, I think, made a couple intermediate throws even. And I watched it live and I go, oh my gosh, when he fumbled on that first one. Some called it the turning point in the game. Oh my gosh. It's like he's just holding the ball out to the Bills defender. I go, he's so lacking of awareness in this situation. Like, dude, the whole mantra of this team is protect the ball. Do right more. Do right more. Do right more. If you do right more in that first half, it's 12-10. If you do right more, you have a football game. And I don't know if Canales or rather Dalton is capable of doing right more. I told you this last week. I told you it should be concerning that Dalton is saying, I just want to go out there and have fun. Like he was saying, I want to go out there and have fun and sling it around. And then Nick Scott to Joe Person goes, yes, Dalton literally is telling us he wants to go sling it around. I told you all this. And I told you it's a big gamble. And Dalton looked like someone who has not played football and was not ready to play football. I think an underrated storyline, again, I did tell you this last week, is Bryce Young's command of this offense. This offense was built for Bryce Young. They have their leadership meetings. They adapt everything towards Bryce Young's skill set. Bryce Young's mobility, or even just the communications that were a huge issue early in the season. Dave Canales saying like there was like a language barrier between him and the quarterback. He was like, we can't communicate. Saying that some of Bryce Young's communications were too long-winded in the huddle. Things along those lines. So you've worked all that out. You've adapted. And Young still hasn't shown that he can throw the ball down the field consistently. But he has command over the offense. I don't know if you beat the Bills on Sunday with Bryce Young. I don't think that's possible. I think the Bills were too good offensively, too good running the ball. But I think Young at this point, I'll say it, he would have saved you those turnovers. Because Andy Dalton had a horrible day. A day that was as bad as week 1 and week 2, 2024, Bryce Young. It was horrible. It was the worst quarterback play I have seen in a very long time. And it was preventable. It was preventable. Like you could have protected the ball. Shaq Thompson completely embarrassed him. Shaq Thompson knew what play was coming. It was a play that Shaq Thompson has seen before. Diagnosed the screen, completely calls it out. Epinesa gets there, makes the interception, makes an athletic play. These are things that they could prevent. Like this is homework. This is something that you work out in practice. You work out on the film. Maybe some of it is the play calling or the audibles or whatever. But Andy Dalton should have been able to prevent 3 of those turnovers. And he has Canales concerned long-term. And Canales should be, especially if Young can't play, because with Dalton, it's going to be a crapshoot. And my take hasn't changed on Dalton. Like today, Dalton looked like the hesitant, choking quarterback we have seen. Where he gets into the big game, and maybe this was a big game for Dalton, getting back into the starting lineup, maybe another chance to prove himself as a starter. You know he wants to get back out there. It's the first thing he tells you. He wants to play. And maybe he looks at this like, oh, well, Bryce Young, he's been okay. He's been mid. So I'm going to go out there and throw 5 tutties. Dave Canales isn't going to say no to me. I throw 5 tutties on the Bills. We win 35-3. And then there was that one play where it's like a little out to Jalen Coker. And Dalton he takes a sack. So this was not the offensive line. He had a throw there. And Dalton, he pumps it. And then he's just like looking around. So maybe this guy, again, just want to go out there and sling it all day. And you should be concerned about the game plan and how it fits to Dalton's skill set, what's left of it. I don't know. You could probably beat the Saints with Andy Dalton. I'll still say that. Not the Packers and not the Bills. Bryce Young still gives you the best chance. He does give you the best chance to win. I said it. But do you want to throw it all on Red Rifle? Do you all want to throw it on Red Rifle? You know, you might win big. You might win the jackpot. You might be the coolest guy on earth for like 24 hours. You might end up in the news like you won the Powerball because Andy Dalton was quarterback, threw 5 touchdowns, 0 picks. Or there's like a 80% chance he goes out there and costs you the game. That is what he has been his whole career. Just that ratio has changed. When he was younger, it was like a 30% chance he would choke the game away. Now it's like, as he ages, it's like a 70% chance. But he can still give you some Pro Bowl caliber play, like he did against the freaking Raiders last year. That's not enough against the Packers, though. Hopefully Bryce Young gets back, and hopefully these guys get healthy, because wow, there's a lot of injuries. The injury plague hit the Panthers, and we'll hear more about it today We will cover it tomorrow on Thursday's show. This is The Tone. Thank you for tuning in. So much more coming up for you on this channel.